Hello again, everyone, and thank you once again for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, we've got a winter storm warning, winter storm warning out for the, hard for me to say in June, out for the northeastern Brooks Range area, which includes Ahnetoovik, Adigan Passes, Chandelar Lake, Galbraith Lake, and Sagwan, those areas. That's out until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning for 4 to 8 inches of additional snowfall, snowing there all day long, with temperatures in the upper 20s at Ahnetoovik Pass in that area. That'll continue tonight and then begin to improve tomorrow morning when it's due to end at 10 a.m. with winds be gusting up to 40 miles an hour tonight, probably start diminishing toward morning, but that'll create areas of snow and blowing snow, reducing visibilities. Winter weather advisory out in the eastern Beaufort Sea coast there, with seeing winds gusting over 60 miles an hour today, or winds earlier were gusting 55 to 60 over toward Kaktovik, and 40 to 45 mile an hour winds expected to continue for tonight, and also wind advisories here for the southeastern Brooks Range area for 40 to 45 mile an hour gusts, and also wind advisories for the Kobuk Valley on down into the Galena area here. And again, that's for winds gusting 40 to 45 miles an hour out of the north and northwest. Indian Mountain could see gusts of 50 miles an hour with a higher elevation. And here in the central Tanana Valley, or the greater Fairbanks area, there's a frost advisory out for tonight. Temperatures, North Pole, Goldstream's expected to drop into the upper 20s late tonight, early tomorrow morning, but Fairbanks area itself not expected to drop below freezing. So moving on to the fire danger chart. Quite an expanding area up here south of the Brooks Range. High fire danger now from the Porcupine River all the way back up into the Noatak Valley, Selkirk Valley, Kobuk Valley areas, with extreme fire danger now showing up from, it looks like right around the Koyukuk Valley back to the northwest there. So beginning to expand and increase there with the downsloping winds, drier conditions helping that out with the, of course, in the stronger winds also associated with that. High fire danger now showing up in the Susitna Valley here north of Iliamna Lake, and a patch there on the north side of the Yukon River out in the Delta area. So moving on to satellite imagery, you can see a couple of bands dropping southward, being pushed along by a pretty decent northerly Arctic jet, 60-70 knots. First one dissipates out through here. Next one actually a little stronger impulse here coming southward, bringing some showers into the eastern interior. Isolated thunderstorms once again developing late this afternoon, mostly over in Canada, just some scattered action over there. But there were some isolated strikes starting to pop up late this afternoon over the eastern interior areas. But to the south, sunshine. Southwest interior, Bristol Bay, Kodiak, mostly sunny Kodiak. There were some clouds around that aren't showing up on this satellite imagery, but pretty good across southern Alaska. And then the Panhandle continued to see the rain today from that moisture that came out of Canada yesterday, or night before last. And pretty good rainfall amount. Sitka picked up nearly an inch, 0.95 in the last 12 hours, or during the day today there, while amounts elsewhere ranged from, roughly about 4/10 of an inch. Let me get on the right side of that. 4/10 of an inch at Angoon and Hoonah. Otherwise, about 1/3 of an inch, I believe, fell down at Klawock, and then other areas had lighter amounts. And mostly just a few hundredths of an inch with this moisture coming in from the north there over the eastern and central Tanana Valley areas. And you can see that as that front, or that push of moisture south of the Brooks Range there, clears out quite nicely behind that. And then from the Brooks Range, cresting the mountains on out, low clouds here all the way out to the Arctic coast, delineated by that line right through there. Not too bad out to the west, high pressure controlling the weather out over the Bering Sea, and that'll continue for the next couple of days. High centers here along the Russian coast, keeping all this storminess and clouds and rain well off to the west and directing it up to the north and northeast Front just barely making it on the chart here this afternoon out in that area, but fog around the Shimia area. Lots of low clouds and fog here over the Bering Sea, Aleutians up toward the Pribilofts. Not too bad, improving though. Cloud-wise, here as you approach the southwest coast into Bristol Bay, looking pretty good. Showers, isolated thunderstorms here, kind of a trough breaking off associated with this batch of clouds here, and the snow, blowing snow up over the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast into the northeast Brooks Range, and the shower and rainfall today over the Panhandle. That'll tend to diminish tonight there for the southeast coast. Still some lingering showers late tonight and into tomorrow morning here on the extreme south coast, but generally drying out elsewhere. Area of rain now developing and sliding southwestward will bring moisture and showers into the Talkeetna Mountains, possibly into the eastern Susitna Valley, definitely the Madanuska Valley, possibly as far south as Anchorage, and all the way down to the North Gulf Coast. Look for some increasing chance of rain later tonight. Fair out to the west. For tomorrow, this system slides off to the east, no problem at all. Still some pretty good showers there and moisture nudging southeastward there over the Copper River Basin area. Sunshine breaking out over the Panhandle with lingering showers over toward the border. Sunshine here, southwest interior northeastward. Showers over the eastern Tanana Valley 40-mile country. And that snow continues up over the northeast Brooks Range of the eastern central Arctic coast. High pressure holds out here over the Bering Sea with a center up there across right along the Russian coast. So northerly winds 10 to 20. Turn northeast here, and that's going to keep that cloud deck off the coast, continue to push it out to the southwest here. So look for sunshine tomorrow all along the southwest coast, but not the story, low clouds, fog here for the Aleutians, Pribilofts. This system slipping underneath the high will stay to the south. You can see on Tuesday, slips a little bit to the east and southeast there. High pressure holds over the Bering Sea and dominates the Aleutians. Mostly sunny central western interior up to the western north slope. More clouds, risk of some shower activity. Again, roughly from Eagle down into the North Gulf Coast, especially along this trough here right over Yakutat. And much better there up along the north slope in the Arctic coast. Just some shower activity. Rain spreading into the southern Panhandle, edging its way northward throughout the day. And maybe some sunshine for the Juneau Haines area on up the Skagway. Low temperatures down that way tonight, mid to upper 40s. Mid to upper 40s here southern Alaska. Lower 40s out to the southwest interior. Colder here to the north with Bettles, low 29. And again, the upper 20s in the central Tanana Valley, all the way out to the Arctic coast. Highs for tomorrow, shaping up like this, warmest area. Looks like it'll be down over Bristol Bay right around Igagik and King Salmon, or Naknek, Igagik and King Salmon areas with highs 65 to 70 right on up to Pedro Bay, Iliamna Lake. 50s, Yukon Delta, lower 40s, St. Lawrence Island, lower 30s, lower to mid 30s, North Slope Arctic coast. Another day in the 50s there for the Panhandle, following up with low temperatures for Tuesday morning, near 40 out over the Aleutians. Lower to mid 40s here to maybe upper 40s, southern Alaska. Mid 30s, lower to mid 30s, again, central eastern Tanana Valley areas. Koyukuk Valley, 20s, North Slope in the Arctic coast. And the Panhandle in the mid 40s. For the afternoon highs, 50s to lower 60s now. A little bit more sunshine there. Will warm the temperature. 60s again, southwest interior. 60, 65 into the central interior. And lower 30s along the Arctic coast again. But Brooks Range warming up 45 to 50 degrees. Out in the Aleutians, highs in the 40s.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First flying weather graphic today up on the North Slope for tomorrow morning. IFR again from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic Ocean, slipping on down into the Bering Strait there, and the from Shishmaref down to say around Wales, maybe Teller there. Marginal VFR are almost making it to St. Lawrence Island. Lots of IFR central bearing on down across the Aleutians, including the Fox Islands, VFR, Bristol Bay into the interior. And IFR sliding, slipping on up into the southeast interior across Copper River Basin, pushing westward toward the, toward the Talkeetna Mountains, all the way down across the southeast coast. And in the afternoon, becomes marginal across all of the panhandle. Marginal VFR all the way up to almost Eagle, but VFR off to the west here, out across, well off the southwest coast. Nunivak Island VFR, St. Lawrence Island, same thing. Pribilof's just inside the IFR zone, which covers much of the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Mostly VFR Kodiak there, but IFR here, North Gulf Coast, in across the Wrangell Mountains, and up to about Thompson Pass in the Valdez area. And then for Tuesday morning, looks like the IFR lifts off the eastern Beaufort Sea coast there, but central areas back to the west still socked in down to the north side of the Seward Peninsula. And good VFR, northern Bering Sea now, even across the southeast and eastern Bering. Looks pretty good as far as flying goes. Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak, marginal VFR, moisture still flowing up into the southeast interior, but no IFR now. And slowly improving here, especially over the central and southern southeast coast. IFR holds out west. And that holds through Tuesday afternoon as well. Lots of IFR out here, but a big zone of VFR. Northern eastern Bering Sea, Bristol Bay, western interior, all the way over into the Yukon. This area of marginal VFR still in place here across the Kenai Peninsula, Matanuska Valley, the Alaska Range, some of that getting into the mid-Tanana Valley. Marginal for the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast with IFR on the west side. And marginal VFR mostly over the western part of the southeast coast, VFR off to the east. And for passes, Anatuvik, marginal VFR, again, IFR, northern approach, same forecast for Adigan. Lowest conditions on the northern approach, probably likely IFR. Lake Clark and Merrill, though, good VFR tomorrow, same forecast for rainy VFR, windy VFR, and Isabel, marginal VFR, occasionally or mostly marginal for Mentasta, and Tanita, marginal VFR as well, and Portage, looks marginal, as does Chilkoot and White. So moving on to the freezing levels here. Upper high pressure back up over the northwest Bering and the Russian Far East, so that's reflected by 10,000 foot freezing levels now over the Bering Strait and the Chukchi Sea, right down to just off the Yukon Delta coast. But northerly jet here with the colder air up to the northwest. We got quite a gradient right across actually the Seward Peninsula there and the northwest coast, coming down to 2,000 feet there, right around Kivalina, south of the Brooks Range, south of the Kobuk Valley, and 6,000 feet down to the eastern North Gulf Coast, 4 to 6 across the Panhandle, 8,000 feet here Bristol Bay, and a lot smoother, not much of a gradient out to the west there over the Bering Sea. And for icing, again, here down to the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast, mostly central and eastern areas, lightening up to the west there, above about 4,000 feet of light, very isolated moderate rime. A little more extensive area of some considerable moderate rime icing here over the North Gulf Coast, say Cordova in toward Valdez, and up into the Copper River Basin there to the eastern Alaska Range, and some icing even getting up, again, pushing up over the 40-mile country toward Eagle. No icing for the Panhandle. Jet stream tomorrow. Here's that trough, the main upper level low center hanging back to the north there, even slipping up a little farther than it is today. But the trough, this jet digging southward 50 to 70 knots here over the western interior. That's going to carve out a trough here right over mainland Alaska area. And southeast coast should see some gradual improvement. Basically upper ridging starting to take over there. Main jet here well to the south. And for 9,000 feet for tomorrow, 25 to 40, pretty good winds here coming in, 25 to 35 down along the southwest coast, and easterlies 20 to as high as 40 knots for the western Aleutians. Same thing at 3,000 feet, turbulence, occasional moderate chop up here over the northwest.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snider, and joining me today is Cindy Preller. She's the Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska Region's National Weather Service. And Cindy, we hear a lot about tsunamis in the news, probably a lot more than we used to, but let's remind everybody, what is a tsunami?
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Sure.
Tsunami is basically, it's really simple. It's just a disturbance in the water column. So the entire water column from the seafloor to the sea surface is disturbed by something major. Usually a major earthquake. But it can also be a volcanic eruption, even an asteroid. Landslide is especially dangerous.
Okay, so if I'm sitting in my bathtub and I drop a bath toy, that could be a bathtub tsunami.
It is absolutely a bathtub tsunami.
Okay, very good. So Alaska is one of the states, or maybe the state, with the greatest amount of coastline, so tsunamis are a pretty major risk here in Alaska. Who is most at risk?
Yeah, Alaska is significant. We actually make most of the Pacific's tsunamis.
Wow, okay.
On the Aleutian Trench, and it's where the Pacific plate is subducting underneath the American plate, and we produce some very large, great quakes, and of course the most at risk is the Aleutian Trench.
Okay.
But that extends into south central Alaska as well. They're at huge risk, and then southeast Alaska's risk is really mostly landslide focused.
Okay. Are there any places along the Alaskan coastline that don't have a tsunami risk, or at least a very, very low risk?
Absolutely. The Bering Sea's risk is very low, and the Arctic's risk is very low as well.
Okay, so when we're talking about tsunami dangers, those are places that need to be monitored, but probably not really.
No, I
Not
mean,
a big
I
deal.
won't say never.
Yeah, sure.
Because I know
You can't.
better.
Science knows better.
Right. So,
Very good.
near to never.
Okay. Well, let's just say you're on the coast anywhere in Alaska. What are warning signs that tsunami dangers are threatening you right now?
This is super important because Alaska's greatest risk, especially out on the Aleutians and South Central, is a near-field tsunami, and then of
Okay.
course the landslides in southeast. It's even more intense because we
So
can't.
shorter warning time.
No warning time.
Okay.
The earthquake is the warning.
Okay.
And that is the most important thing for anybody to remember. The water can arrive in less than 2 minutes.
2 minutes, wow.
Yeah, at the National Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, we need to get the warning out in 5 minutes. So for those near-field tsunamis, it's the earthquake is the warning. So
Okay.
if you feel shaking,
Okay.
and of course the first thing you do is drop, cover, and hold,
Right.
and you need to start counting
Okay.
slowly to 20.
The right way. How do you do that?
Oh, I teach kids to do it with their favorite things. So
Okay.
1 chocolate, 2 chocolate, 3 chocolate, but you
Chocolate's
can
good.
count anything you like.
Okay.
And if you're thinking of something happy, that helps.
Okay.
Especially helps kids, but it'll help your
So you
psyche.
don't speed up because you're getting stressed out. I see.
Right. It actually lowers your heart rate.
Interesting.
You know, so
Okay.
if you think of something you love and practice that. So you're in an earthquake, you're under the table, you're next to the ocean,
Okay.
right?
Right.
This is important if you're next to the ocean.
Okay.
If you're not next to the ocean, don't worry about it. Just stay in place under cover.
And you're talking about a mile, a quarter mile? What's close?
A mile, even a couple miles.
Okay.
You know, our rule of thumb used to be a mile inland was safe, but the last few tsunamis have taught us otherwise.
Okay.
So, yeah, you know, in Japan we had inundation up to 10 miles.
Right.
So,
Okay. And that was a big quake.
That was a big
So
quake.
you have a quake, you're counting slowly to 20.
to 20.
What's next?
And if you get to 20 and it's still shaking, you need to evacuate.
Okay.
And that is, that's scary.
Yeah.
Because you're
That's a big quake.
evacuating in a live event that's still shaking. You know, 1964 shook for 4.5 minutes. Indonesia shook for 12 minutes.
Wow. Right.
Japan, I think, shook for 6. I'm not sure of that, but it was long. Anyway, more
Right.
than 20 seconds.
And that's a sign of a very major earthquake, the worst.
Well, 20 seconds is a magnitude 7, so that's
Okay.
not the worst. But what a magnitude 7 can do is trigger a landslide.
Okay.
And those landslides might be a submarine landslide, so you won't see it, you won't hear it, you won't know it, and then the water's moving.
Okay.
So that's really, really, really dangerous. That's what happened in 64 first. Seward, Valdez, Whittier all had landslides first.
Okay. And when you're talking about the water is a warning sign too. What happens with the water that gives you a very easy visual sign that something's changing?
Not guaranteed. It might go out. It might go way out really fast enough to leave the fish behind. But that's not guaranteed. It might just be a fast flood instead.
Okay.
So either way, if it's acting like a super fast rising tide, faster than a tide should rise,
Right.
get out of there.
Okay.
And if it goes out really fast, get out of there.
Yeah.
You know, we lost a lot of lives because people will go check out the new tide pools or
Sure.
pick up fish or shells or, you know, so, and it should feel weird.
Right.
You know, it should be weird.
So pay attention to those natural warning signs and how you feel, because those are maybe the only clues you have.
Right, and you know, sound also. You can
Okay.
hear a tsunami. It'll sound like a roaring train, maybe.
Okay.
Or it might sound silent because the water's been pulled out.
Right.
And that's pretty weird. Imagine camping
Yeah.
at night
Yeah.
near the beach, and all of a sudden you don't hear the ocean anymore.
That would be different.
That would be weird. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you also might hear blowing bubbles, and that's actually from the pressure that's blowing the air out from the sand grains, rock
Interesting.
grains. So if you hear blowing bubbles, that's a little weird.
Okay.
Or clinking rocks, you know, like a rain stick. So those are the sound signs. So the visual is rushing in or rushing out, and roaring especially.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of work to get people and keep people aware of what the tsunami warning signs are and what their risks are around Alaska. And there's a website that can help them do that. Where can they go online to get more information for their school, their home, their church, their business?
Oh, there's several. The National Tsunami Warning Center has a website as well, and the easiest way to look that up is just NTWC.
NTWC.
The
Okay.
URL is not intuitive at all.
Okay.
There's also ready.alaska.gov. The state of Alaska has a lot of helpful stuff. Preparedness kits. They have everything you need to get ready.
Okay.
And then for teachers and others, there's a wonderful curriculum called Alaska Tsunami Education Program.
Alaska Tsunami Education Program. Okay.
And that's AKwx.
AKwx. Okay, very good. Those are really good tips to get more information and search that out and help your own community stay safe with the threat of tsunamis around Alaska. Next time we come back and talk to you some more about the Tsunami Ready program and get more in depth on how people can learn more about the risks and what to do here in Alaska. So thank you for joining us today, Cindy. And next time on Alaska Weather Facts, more on tsunamis around Alaska. We'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis. Again, not a lot of change from yesterday, but you can see all the ice in the Bering Sea gone, especially what was around the Seward Peninsula here some days back. And really not any big changes expected over the next 4 or 5 days, but just that continued gradual melt and retreat, which is what you'd expect this time of year. And for the coastal water forecast here along the coast, pretty light winds out of the south, 10 to 15 knots tomorrow, with seas 6 feet, 6 to 7 feet. South, 30 knots. Small craft advisories there for Lynn Canal. 6-foot seas, much lighter down towards Stevens Passage, 15 knots, even lighter Clarence Strait, south at 10. For Tuesday, those kick up to 25 knots out of the southeast. Again, front approaching the area there in the afternoon. South coast, southeast to southeast, 20 knots with seas 8 to 9 feet. Easterlies at 15 on the north coast, and south winds only 15 now for Lynn Canal, and pretty light there for Stevens Passage. Light winds also for Prince William Sound, variable to northeast at 10, slight seas. Southwest winds from the Barren Islands all the way up along the North Gulf Coast. There are small craft advisories with those speeds at 25 to 30 knots and seas 8 to 10 feet. Northwest 20, Kamishak Bay with 6-foot seas. North winds in Cook Inlet at 15 knots. And then for Tuesday, these winds really drop off here for the North Gulf Coast and become easterly, 10 to 15 knots right across the Barren, southeast 15 to Kamishak Bay. And the seas running 5 to 6 feet here, and no change for Prince William Sound. Light winds continue, and east winds at 15 north of the Forelands, while areas south of the Forelands will look at west winds at 15. Kind of puts a low center right in here. For Bristol Bay, northwest 15 knots, all the way down to Cape Sarachev to Castle Cape, north at 20 with 8-foot seas. Southeast 15 up towards Sitkinak. South at 20 there on the east side of Kodiak, and southwest 25. Good for small craft advisories for Shelikof Strait. Those drop off to 15 knots and become northeast on Tuesday. Otherwise, light winds there for Kodiak. Easterlies 10 to 15 for the southern Alaska Peninsula, and the Bering Sea side north at 15. And for the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, Unalaska Island, north winds at 20 with 4 to 8-foot seas. Northeast winds or north to northeast 15 to 20 knots, become mostly just 15 knots out toward Adak and Atka. And then west of Adak, winds pick up to 30 knots out toward the west with seas building to 10 feet. And then for Tuesday, northeast winds at 20 here for the western Aleutians, staying pretty light here for the Adak-Atka area, and just 10 to 15 for the Fox Islands, kind of varying directions there, but all with a northerly component, and those seas 4 to 6 feet. And for the southwest coast, small craft advisories tomorrow, north winds 25 knots, just 15 knots for the Pribilofs, northeast 20 for St. Matthew Island, northeast 20 for St. Lawrence Island. That holds through the day on Tuesday there with 15 knots in Norton Sound. Same thing here for St. Matthew Island, northeast 15 for the Pribilofs, and north to northeast along the southwest coast at about 20 knots. And eastern Beaufort Sea coast, not too bad wind-wise tomorrow, northwest to west, only 15 knots. There are about 15 knots there with westerlies of 15 here for the west side, and then back around to the northwest at 15 for the Chukchi Sea. And for Tuesday, northwest 15 knots from Wales on up to Cape Beaufort. Light, really light, east winds at 5 knots here for the much of the Arctic coast there with 3-foot seas here in open areas and about 10 knots over toward Demarcation Point. Looking at tonight's weather again, for tonight, again, winter weather or a blizzard, winter storm warning out from the Northeast Brooks Range. Again, the higher elevations, 4 to 6 inches snow, and that warning's out until 10 a.m. tomorrow. Otherwise, wind advisories here, east or western interior, Kobuk Valley, southward to Galena, north winds gusting 40 to 45. Frost advisory out for Fairbanks, for lows dropping into the upper 20s in some areas. Otherwise, rain over the southeast interior, improving over the Panhandle, leading to some sunshine tomorrow afternoon. But showers, especially over the Copper River Basin and up into the 40-mile country, dry back to the west, lots of sunshine, diminishing wind and snow up along the Arctic coast and Brooks Range. And then the outlook for Tuesday, sunny over the central and western interior and a lot better on the Arctic coast. The front pushes rain into the Panhandle.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.